find the others and flop down and go back to sleep. But and that is our pole at the back of the vehicle there. So while she does do that and head off and find a lovely place to go to sleep, let's head over to Taylor and see how she's going with those males and the hippo.
Well, the hippo's not going anywhere, I'm afraid. It's going to be here for the rest of its life. Well, its carcass sadly may be dragged around a bit, but I'm not happy with this male lion. I feel like he's not showing us the true Christmas spirit. He's being very selfish by sitting in the shade and not wanting to move so nobody can come down and eat it. Come on, sharing is caring. And those jackal are desperate. They're pretty persistent, but a couple of them have actually left already, though. Wait, what are you coming racing out for? You get a fright? Just very nervous. That male lion didn't even charge either. Just in case, though. Remember, lions have a charging speed of 22 meters per second, so that jackal knows that it has to be quick off its toes. Again, because if it gets caught, even just a swipe from a lion's paw onto a jackal's back could quite easily snap its spine. And they do know this. They want to be careful. All the hyenas have moved off, though. They've given up. I think they're thinking they're going to come back maybe later. I don't know if this male is going to stay. I mean, he's been sitting up. He's just been watching around. I think the other boys have perhaps disappeared into the shade somewhere around the forest. Actually, while you look, I just want to quickly check what that thing is over there. Oh, that is a male lion under a tree. Ah, we've got somebody coming back, Manu. Let's go look at that. One of those males is on his way home. Let me turn around. I hope there's no cars behind me. Beep, beep, beep. They're not going to be able to hear that anyway. So I can see both male lions again, which is quite nice. One's coming back here, so I think our sighting that we were hoping for might only happen this afternoon or tomorrow morning. Maybe it'll be our Christmas present tomorrow morning. But they're coming back. Where did you guys go? I wouldn't imagine that they went off to drink water because we had a male drinking water just here yesterday. And the puddle's still there. Okay, so underneath that big tree as well, Manu, that's where the second male lion is sitting. Ah, it's my favorite boy that's coming towards us. So you can just see, obviously, the one walking, and then on the top right corner, underneath the shade, is the other male lion. It's a pity that he's not walking in the opposite direction, because that light would have been very nice, especially because the grass is still a little bit wet. Although here comes the wind, so it is going to dry up very, very quickly. And it looks like they've managed to shake off most of the water that was sitting on their manes too. So not so full of dew. Now he was walking with a limp yesterday. He seems to be much better. Well, it's slight limp. You can just see dropping his shoulder every now and then. Maybe he's hurt his paw from taking on that hippo. I'm just going to keep on walking. There you go. Mark his territory along the way. There wasn't a very good attempt at marking his territory, but at least he did deposit some urine, leaving his scent behind. Off he goes. Off they're beautiful boys. The more time I spend with these lions, the more they start to grow on you, and particularly the Chitwa boys. I've definitely been enjoying them. They've provided me with some fantastic sightings, and they're quite feisty fellas too. There he goes. We will watch him until he disappears, and then we'll have to do a little repositioning again. This is surely going to send the jackals scattering now that there is a second male lion walking in that direction. Sorry, you might be able to hear another vehicle. There's just a guide that has just stopped. There we go. That's a bit better. And there he marches. Now, are you going to run in? He doesn't look like he's going to charge on in like that other male lion. Perhaps he's not as annoyed with the presence of the jackal like that one fella is. I mean, he stood guard. He was not letting that carcass up. I can't believe we saw the palm on that vulture. That's my highlight. I know this is all very exciting. There he goes. Now we need to reposition again. Just going to go turn around up ahead and then we'll come back. Wait. Go back this way. And then we'll go around. Everybody will go back to our original spot. I'm going to quickly sneak through here. Now, Starlight, you've asked whether adult male lions will kill each other. Most certainly, there's often squabbles amongst... Oh, groom. Sorry, I heard kill. My bad. Now that changes my answer. They do. They're obviously a lot more social than cheetah male coalitions, but even then, they're not as social as the lionesses. The girls are the ones that really constantly maintain that relationship. They will rub heads every now and then. I've never seen much grooming going on between males, maybe the odd lick here and there. But they're typically big boys and they will look after themselves. So we're just moving in slowly, making sure we get the right gap. I think I'm going to go forward. Maybe we'll try that position that we did yesterday when we discovered that we confirmed that it was actually a hippo. Well, those lions look like they've dragged it around, hey Manu? Definitely moved it. Just want to see what it's like from here, because it's not great where we were either. It's hard now. All the jackal have scattered now. They're not tolerating. I don't think they'll be brave enough to eat right on their carcass with two males. Is he going in for a nibble? So they've moved it around a fair amount, which is unfortunate for us. Sorry, I'm just shifting in my seat. And hopefully that third boy will come back, but he seems to be quite content in the distance and under the shade. So there must be a bit more flesh left on that hippo if they're not wanting to abandon it. There we go. Yeah, he's going up to his coalition member, rubbing heads, greeting one another. Now shaking all the excess water off onto his brother. Whether they're blood brothers, I'm not 100% sure, but they would have come from the same pride, most likely. Oh, that's very nice. So yes, so there we go. You can see they're a little bit affectionate. I suppose that was a bit more than just giving a high five, though. That was like a high five and a secret handshake as well, to that extent. And now they're all just going to lay there. Oh, this makes me so sad, because now I know that the hyenas are not going to come on in, the vultures are not going to dive down, and the jackal are going to have to sit and wait a little bit longer to get their fill. So on that happy note, I think we're going to make our move as well. It's getting quite hot, it's getting quite windy. We've seen these cats moving around now, and I think that is where the action is going to stop. I think they're going to sleep here. So guess what we're doing this afternoon, Manu? Give you one guess. We're going to Nairobi to get Burger King. No, I'm joking. Of course we're going to come back, because I'm adamant you're going to see some cool hyena-lion interaction. I'm so sorry, Rolf, you didn't come through clearly. Please, can you say that again? Ooh, there's lots of dust in the car today. Okay. Well, that was quite exciting anyways. I enjoyed earlier with the interaction with that big elephant bulls and lions, and then them going to chase the hyenas around as well. That was very nice to see, and I'm sure you all enjoyed that, and I look forward to seeing the screenshots. So I'm going to send you back across now to Rolf, who seems to be waiting it out with his cats.
Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, well, we were waiting it out a little bit, but we decided in the interim, once we had a little bit of a gap that the lions gave us, that we'd move on and go up towards the escarpment, and then maybe make our way back towards those lions, because they are on the way out once we start heading home, and we'll see if they've moved at all. But that was a lion roadblock early this morning, and now we've got a elephant roadblock. So this morning is really African roadblocks. Wildlife affects our ecosystem. I'm not too sure what you mean by that question, but I would say that animals, obviously, when they're in a specific ecosystem, they do affect it to different degrees. But an animal such as an elephant obviously has quite a heavy impact, both positively and sometimes seemingly negatively. But with the negatives come positives, and the other way around. And there's that yin and yang type story, because when elephants can seemingly be destructive, like pushing over trees and squashing little insects and arthropods as they walk along, well, with that destruction comes the life that can be supported around those trees that have been pushed over. You've got a lot of birds that might nest in there. You've got all the decomposition of the tree. You've got opening up of specific areas that allows antelope to move through, and that without the elephants pushing the trees over and keeping the area a little bit clear, that they wouldn't be able to. So there's all sorts of benefits from the so-called destruction that we get from elephants, but it's all important to remember that they're all part of the system and they are in a fine balance. So they're all part of the ecosystem, and we'd love to see how they're getting along. Now this female, I'm not sure, Archie, if you can get in a little bit closer there. I don't know if she's had a problem with the tip of her trunk. It looks like it's either a different color, or my first instinct was that she's had a little bit nipped off the end, and that can be sometimes down to snares, which we would hope not. Do you see there? It does seem like she's got a bit of a problem on the end of her trunk. They can be very adaptable, and even if they do lose some of their trunk, they can make the best of it. It's almost like as if, as a human, you lose a finger or you lose a hand. You can adapt and work without it, but you see there, it does look a little bit flat, and she's almost lost that little prehensile tip on the end of the trunk, and I do think that might be so. You know, I say snare, but there's always a possibility of crocodile getting a hold of it. I think there's a lot of animals here that have crocodile damage, and all around the river, and those massive individuals that have been feeding on antelope and hooved animals, that now they probably go for just about anything. I was chatting to the guides the other day, and they said that even they saw a cheetah getting taken by a crocodile, which was quite disturbing. But at the same time, I suppose we can't discriminate between a cheetah and a zebra now, can we? If a zebra is good enough to be fed on by a crocodile, well, who says that a cheetah isn't? And it seems the crocodiles don't discriminate, so why should we? Now, Ben, as Archie goes across to these other animals here, you're wondering how safe the elephants are in the Mara. Well, Ben, there's quite a good security detail that does move around the Mara National Reserve and the Mara Triangle, and we take Askaris with us anytime. Askari being a soldier type ranger that is part of the security detail, and anybody that's in the reserve before or after sunrise and sunset needs to take one of these Askaris as almost as your security. And it's also security for the animals, and it's security against poachers, and they also do assist in keeping the cattle and the livestock out of the actual reserve. So yes, and there's also the guys that follow the rhino around, and they'll also be very concerned then with poaching. So you can have the odd poaching incident with local communities being very close on the borders here, but it doesn't seem like it's a huge problem, but it's always important to keep an eye on it, because if left unchecked, then it can become worse. Now, Jasmine, that's a very good question. Do elephants ever sneeze? That's a question coming from Jasmine. Jasmine, I'm trying to think if I've ever actually witnessed any kind of sneeze coming from an elephant. I don't think that I have. It would obviously, because they've got that extended trunk as a nose, it would be quite interesting if they did have to sneeze. And I can't for the life of me think of ever seeing one having sneezed. It's quite special. That would have to be like a real blow out of the trunk. And maybe I have, but I haven't realized it. You know, when they're sucking up water and blowing it out. I'm wondering what that female has stopped for, with a little bit of an injury on her trunk. And there's still another elephant that's coming through here that's stopping us from driving off. Now, Carl, you're wondering if there's anything such as being a righty or a lefty with the elephants and their tusks. Absolutely, Carl. You can even have a look. Once Archie goes in there nice and closely, you'll see which one is more worn than the other. Now, in this case, it does seem to be potentially that left one between those two tusks, but sometimes it's not always just the smaller one or the bigger one that you're going to be looking at. You need to look at which one is more smooth and brilliant or shiny, because you would then know that one is being used a little bit more. Now, I have noticed with these elephants here in the Mara that their tusks aren't particularly well used, and they're not as shiny and used as the ones in the Kruger National Park area. And I'm wondering if that's got to do with them feeding a lot more on grass, whereas in the Kruger National Park area they'd potentially be feeding a lot more on trees and branches and bark, and so that they would be working trees and the bark a lot more in the Kruger Park area than here. But I do think on that one that it is still the left. But you see what I mean. If you see some of those elephants, you must have a look on the next game drive when we've got the guys in South Africa on board, and we'll have a look and see at those their tusks back there in South Africa. I'm sure that they are used a little bit more, and that's probably down to their diet. Right, we've been allowed now to drive up the road. Now, Mark, you're wondering how well elephants can see and how good is their peripheral vision. Well, it's very similar to that of humans. Now, obviously, their eyes are a little bit more on the side of their head as opposed to us being on the front. So the actual vision of an elephant very similar to humans, but their peripheral vision will be better because their eyes are on the side of their heads. So they will be able to see further back than we can, because our eyes are in the front facing forward. We can only almost see 180 degrees, whereas theirs is on the side, so they could probably see more closer to like a 260 degree view of them, a little bit further back. So quite interesting that, but very similar depth and of view that a human has. Right, so we've had two wonderful roadblocks this morning. The first one being a pride of lions with fat bellies. They've eaten well last night. And the second being a nice little breeding herd of elephants, mommy and her babies, and the one elephant having that little end of her trunk, it seems, either cut off or bitten off in some way, but she seems to be quite happy continuing with it like that. And it's wonderful to see the swallows and the martins just drifting right on the top of the grass here, obviously chasing out insects and so on. And as we drive, you might see them circling the vehicle, also looking for the insects as we bump them out. But while we relocate, heading up towards the escarpment, let's go over to Taylor, who is also driving and maybe also got swallows and martins circling her too.
And trying to fix my hair at the same time. I'm trying to put it today. I'm not really having a good hair day today, so I'm just trying to tame it a little bit. It was quite wild trying to get a brush through it. So we've obviously moved off from our lions, and our Manu and I are looking for spots, or cats with rosettes to be more specific. We're looking for leopards, and I cannot believe I don't see leopards around here. It's the most perfect habitat on the edge of the Mara River with all these forests, these massive diospirus trees that we're driving underneath. It's very cool. So I was saying to Manu, I was like, oh, the leopards in the Sabi sands, they'd be having the greatest time of their lives. They'd be going up and down all these massive trees. I'm just joking. They do that at home anyway. They've got plenty of big trees to climb up in the south. Hello, that was a nice bump. See what happens when you drive on these roads that aren't main roads and then try and look for animals as well. Toolbox goes bouncing out of the car. Manu loses a shoe. He didn't lose a shoe, he's got both shoes. You're not even wearing shoes today. I think I've already commented on that. He's wearing slip-slops. That's what we call them in South Africa. That's another fun word. Flip-flops or slip-slops. I don't know what you call them in the rest of the world. Thongs, sandals. But a sandal is a completely different style of shoe. So yes. So we call them slip-slops. And he's wearing them today. And I can't believe it because it was quite chilly this morning. I even put a thicker pair of socks on than normal. My thick secret socks. They don't keep my ankles warm though, too short. So, I think our plan is going to be to head down past Little Governors and check the river line that side. Seeing as though we have been saying that we've been seeing some tracks of a leopard. I'm just making sure because every time I have found a leopard, especially on the other side of the river, they've just been sitting in the shade of a tree. No, Richard, you're wondering if it's winter in the Mara now? No, the days are getting longer. The sun is setting later. No, I think we're coming into summer now. Isn't it full swing summer, Manu? Manu says, oh yeah. We need like a little camera for Manu so you can see his facial expressions when he answers me as well. So the seasons are the same. I mean, Manu, what is the winter like here? Which is the coldest month? July. That's the coldest out of all the okay, very nice. So it's about the same, although in South Africa I find June to be particularly cold. I suppose it depends where you are. On the coast it's not very pleasant. Now, Lady Starfire, you're wondering something along the lines of about fires, if there are many fires in the Mara with the grass drying out. I don't think so, not like the Sabi sand in other parts of South Africa. Remember, it doesn't get as dry here. There's a little bit of rain that comes down all the time. So, Manu, this is your first time working in the Mara as well, huh? So it's a bit difficult for me to try and give an expert opinion because I haven't been in the area for long enough. But I can't imagine that everything will dry out because you've just had the big long rains and then you come into winter, so it will probably dry out a bit, but I mean, I've never read in the newspapers of raging fires going through the Mara Triangle. Have you heard of anything like that out here? I think it's a little bit too green still. That's not to say that fires can't be caused out here. Lightning, there's massive storms. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of smaller fires that are maybe started with lightning. Whether they'll burn and burn and burn like they do in the Sabi sand, I highly doubt it. I mean, you don't even see that a lot of the excess moribund, so all the build-up of vegetation. I mean, the elephants definitely don't push as many trees down here as they do in the Sabi sand, obviously, because there's so much food available here. They don't need to. There's other things that are easier to feast upon. So, there's not a lot left around that's just sitting waiting to burn. YouTube, Peyton, you asked me how cold do our winters get. I have no idea. I've never experienced a winter in Kenya or let alone here in the Mara, so I can't comment on that, unfortunately. However, in South Africa, they do get quite cold. So for instance, sure, the Eastern Cape is not nice in winter. That's on the southeast coast. You know, there's frost on the ground when you're doing safaris in the morning, and it will be drizzly and raining and windy. Either no wind or gale force wind. There's no such thing as a breeze in the Eastern Cape. It blows like a hurricane all the time. So that's unpleasant. That's not very nice. I don't think that will be like that here though. That is still the worst place I've done safaris on in winter, is down on the southeast coast. It's really, really not nice. Enough to make me move countries. It was so unpleasant. And I suppose the weather here is slightly similar though, with all the wind that we get. It doesn't get as cold though. I'd imagine it would be chilly up on the escarpment, and then coming down into the valley it could be quite cold. I don't know if I'd wear long pants though. The Sabi sand also gets very, very cold. There we layered up long pants, about 4 jerseys, scarves, beanies. It's not particularly pleasant either in the winter months. But yeah, I like the weather in the Mara most of the time. But I'm very picky. Very, very picky. The best weather so far in South Africa has to be in the Sabi sand and then Mpumalanga, Limpopo regions. It gets very hot, but it's still quite nice though. There's not a lot of wind. Okay, so we're going to head towards the Mara River now. We're not too far away, and start our search for the leopard. Let's go and see what else Ralph has managed to bump into.
Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, well, we're also looking for something similar to, well, the same as what you're looking for. Coming along this lovely valleyed greenery with very forest type habitat, and I'm hoping to spot, if we're very lucky, a leopard. And we've seen some vultures up in the tree. The only thing is we're not allowed to drive there, so it is a bit difficult. We've got to look from a distance, and I think there has been a bit of a kill in the forest here somewhere, because there's a whole number of vultures sitting up in the tree. We can't see them now, but I think they're probably there because something has died, and I think that might be down to a leopard. It's perfect habitat for them, and it's a very big forest this, so I would be very surprised if there aren't a few leopard walking around in there. I would love to go and get out there on foot and see the tracks and see what's around. Now Sue, you're wondering what kind of grass this is. Well, Sue, let's have a nice close look at that. I have done this before, but this is one of those grasses that is very special and very important in the Mara and Mara region, Mara National Park, and around South Africa as well, in the Kruger National Park as well. This is called red oat grass, and very indicative. It's actually quite similar to turpentine grass, which has similar inflorescence, but this red grass has a much better nutritional value than almost any of the other grasses, so very important. And if it is dominating an area, it also indicates that the soil is in prime condition as well. And throughout the Mara Triangle, this is the dominant grass, so it really is a good sign that the soil here is in prime condition, and so is the grass. So the animals that are grazing on this are getting very good nutrition, and the elephants and everybody almost becoming grazers now, as opposed to being mixed feeders, because of the quality of the grass available. And I would do exactly the same. So obviously just feeding as the resources allow, or makes it available to them. And with so much red grass around, it's silly not to. Jenny, you're wondering where else in the world you find this grass. I'm not quite sure if you find it anywhere else except in Africa. I don't think so. You maybe find some similar species to it, but I know that this, you know, from when we studied conservation and wildlife management, this was the first grass that we learnt about, because it is, you know, one of those grasses that if you've got it dominating your protected area or your national park, it is one of those thumbs up, perfect condition type grasses. It's a climax grass, so it's normally, once you go through succession of pioneer grasses stabilizing the soil, and then your subclimax grasses taking it on to the next level, putting more organic material back into the soil, you then get to the stage of this climax community in your succession stages, which includes plants like the red grass. So very well established, very well balanced, and very nutritional. So you couldn't ask for a better condition of this area to be in, with it being dominated by red oatgrass, or Tomida triandra, the Latin name. And it's fabulous to see as you drive around. It's quite a beautiful grass as well. Got that little red tinge to it, but as I say, quite similar to that of turpentine grass. Turpentine grass, a very low nutritional value, and actually quite distasteful to animals, but also part of a climax community, just one of those different species. So anyway, all in all, it's literally fields and fields of this red grass, perfect for the animals. So, and that's the thing as well, you know, people often think, oh, there's lots of green grass, the animals will be fine. It all depends on the species of grass that is dominating the area, because you can have very unpalatable or distasteful or non-nutritional grasses dominating an area, even though it's very green looking and looks very lush. It's actually very useless in terms of its nutritional value to the animals. So that's when you've got to look a bit closer and see what actual species they are. Now, Phil, you're wondering if the length of the grass can affect the animal's ability to hunt. Absolutely, Phil. I mean, if you're looking at a nice area of long grass, the lions can literally disappear in there. And if you then move to an area which has been heavily grazed, it's very short, and obviously those lions don't really have much place to hide. So if you've got animals moving through an area like this with predators, they would generally be a lot more wary and skittish as well, because they know that the lions can find refuge and get closer to them in this grass, and they're a lot more relaxed in the areas which have been mowed and much closer to the ground. So you can actually see it within the prey or the game animals' reaction and how skittish they are with the long grass as opposed to being around the short grass. And then the predators would also find it more difficult in the long than on the short. It's a lovely view from up here, and we are driving now on the Escarpment road, another one of those roads that I've never driven on before. So we're just ticking off those last few roads now. I think we've probably got to the last 10 or 15% of the roads that we still need to drive. It's lovely to explore new areas in such a place like the Mara Reserve. It's fantastic. Mark, you're wondering when we would be able to see some baboons. Well, with us going up quite high here on, towards the escarpment and right at the bottom of it, we've got quite a good chance of seeing baboons, because mostly you would see them sort of along the escarpment and maybe in the rocky areas, and then maybe down towards the river. And so in those different spots, they like rocky areas, treed areas, and also baboons will never be far from water. that's one of the things that you could look at if you were, if I had to run out of fuel here and lose all contact with the camp and I needed to find water. If you spot a baboon, you can follow him because he'll generally never be within further than 10 kilometers from water. So, and he needs to drink regularly. So we'll follow the baboon and definitely find water. If we can't find the actual animal, we'll be able to follow baboon tracks, and they will either lead away or to water. That is for sure. So a nice little survival strategy there. But I'm going to look out for baboons with that request being put forward, and as soon as we spot some, I'll let you know. But for now, we're just still driving through the grasslands, seeing all the lovely little grass birdies, little pipits and wide-ahs and widow birds, and there's the odd bishop, yellow bishop. And then we've also got some of the rufous-naped larks calling. All the grassland species who nest just at the base of these grass tufts. We've got a little bit of a water crossing here, so let's put our low range in and diff lock. And we've also got a nice buffalo skull there. So we've always got to be careful when we're going through water. We might lose traction and power, so I just want to take on everything that we've got, and that's quite a big hole. Don't worry, that's just the tow bar at the back as we make it through quite nicely. The thing is with some of these holes, have been laid in by buffalo, and then they can make them quite deep as wallows. But I'm going to continue here along the road as I just get myself out of low range and diff lock. But let's head you over to Taylor, who I think has got a lovely track to show you.
Ooh, look what we've got. I've been quite naughty. I've just stepped outside the side of the car because we've got the biggest hyena footprints I think I've ever seen in my entire life, which is quite cool. And they may have not looked big when you were staring at them, but if I put my hand here, that is most certainly going to change it. Now you all know how big a lion track is. I haven't got the largest hands, but look at that in comparison to the size of my hand. There's also a little ant of sorts crawling around there too. That is insane. That is so big. That's a very big female. I actually wish I had my Leatherman or something on me. I would have loved to have measured this track. Should we? I have lip ice. Let's use this. I'm going to see. It's not even big enough. So actually I'm going to just do it straight in the middle of the track so I can see it clearly. One. We put that there. That's my lip ice. It's very worn now. Now I need to make a marker. So I need to know how many of these it's going to be. Stay. This is very cool. Never mind. That's not going to work. It's about 1 1/3 of these. I'll go back and measure it and then try and get the exact same size. That's very cool though to see that. I once took a picture, and I'm sure if I dig on my phone I could probably find it, of a hyena paw print that was as long as my pen. I don't know how long the average pen is, but it was quite big. And that was at Djuma, right outside camp in fact. That was quite cool to see. And so what I'll do at some point during the show, I did actually remember showing it to somebody the other day, so I know it is on there. I will show it to you as well before the drive ends. But I'd love to see that hyena. That is a very big track. Now Mia, you're wondering how on earth did I know that was a female hyena track? Just from size. The female hyenas are much bigger than the boys, so just doing one last check on the bank. Much larger. And oh, that was a big pig too. That was a big bull. We'll see if we can get another view of him. He looks ancient, or maybe it's just my eyes. So yeah, so that's how I knew, just purely by the size of it. There's no way that it could be a male, to be a big female, probably a matriarch of a clan. Sorry. But I'm just. Oh.
Sorry about that, folks. I don't know what's happening. You know, we get those gremlins and we can never plan for them. They come and go. But we've got picture here, and the scene that I'm watching is absolutely beautiful. It's right at the base of the escarpment, and we've got the swallows and martins crisscrossing in front of us. We haven't seen any animals since we left the elephants, but it is still a beautiful scene here as we drive through the long grass. We might be missing the odd animal because the grass is so long, so we just stop every now and then and have a quick scan. I mean, lions in this grass are almost entirely invisible unless they walk up onto a termite mound, a little bit of a raised position. They are gone. So now you must think about all the other smaller predators and animals living in this grass. It's incredible. I'm pretty sure that it's teeming with wildlife, but we're looking almost just over the top of it. So we're just skimming over it and missing it. That's why we just continue along slowly, and as they say in French, c'est la bonne chance. It's the lucky chance. Here in front of us, it looks like a couple of Swainson's spurfowl. They're the ones that have been making all the racket in the early mornings. That's the kind of call that they make. Nice little red face to them, very red legs, and they've got the spurs on the back of their legs as well, and generally they run all the way along the road, even when we drive up behind them. So sometimes need to just get a little bit closer, otherwise they could continue for kilometers in front of you on the 2-track. You get a little bit closer and that just makes them fly off to the side. It's not that we're trying to run them over, it's that we're actually trying to save them a bit of energy, right, instead of running along the road in front of us all the way. But you can see that they are continuing on the road, and they've turned off, maybe not, they're back on the road. Come on guys, off you go, there we go. Normally it just takes one of them to head off, and then they both do, and I did say normally. Now this one running along the road as they sometimes do, but don't worry, a small call from them and they will reunite. Joy in Hong Kong, you're wondering if there's baobab trees here. Not that I know of, Joy, but there are similar looking trees that I've seen in the very western areas, which are very similar to the Moringa ovifolia that I've seen in Namibia as well. Quite similar looking in that it looks like it's been turned upside down, and the roots are actually showing out the top. And there's a nice story around baobabs and the moringas, in that when all the animals and the plants were made and they were put in their place, the baobabs and the moringas were forgotten about. So the wise owl that had put everybody into their place and all into the correct habitats, and that had made the very silly mistake of forgetting about the moringa and the baobabs, he took them in his claws and he threw them in the air and he said, let you live where you lay, or where you come to rest. And unfortunately they landed upside down. So that's why you find baobabs and moringas looking like their roots are in the air. But no, I don't think we get baobabs here, and I think it's probably from here to the south towards southern Africa where you then get more baobabs. Maybe you might actually get them here, but they can be quite heavily worked on by the elephants, for instance. That's a possibility. And speaking of being worked on by the elephants, this is a balanitis tree that's been pushed over the road, and I'm very sure that elephants have got a sense of humor, because you often find elephants pushing trees over the road, and I've seen elephants drag massive stumps that are on the side of the road and literally place it perfectly across the road with no apparent reason. No, he doesn't want to eat it, and it's almost like he's just going, well, let's see how they deal with that one. So I'm sure elephants have got a sense of humor. Lovely spot here. I've just heard a little brew calling, which is also one of those birds that we get in South Africa and in the Kruger Park. He does a sounds like those old telephones, you know, the ones that you had to put your finger in and wind it, and then it goes back, and they go very nice old style telephone. Remember those days when you had to wait for about 12 seconds, especially I think it was if you did a 0. That was the longest one, because that tick 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 all the way back. And if you had to dial a normal mobile phone that you do now, I mean now you just go ding 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 and you've got all the numbers in. But on those old phones, 0, 7, 2 it takes you half an hour before you get to talk to anybody. Anyway, yeah, I suppose we go off on a tangent sometimes, but that brew bird sound like a telephone made me think of that. Ah, that's it. Thanks for the comment, whoever that was. Rotary phones. And I suppose, and that coming from Tony Stark. Thanks, Tony. Yeah, and that's even before the ones that you used to wind. I mean, after. I'm not that old, but my parents told me about the ones that you needed to wind up, and then you put the one piece to your ear and you speak in the other one. But you normally got to an operator and a switchboard, and then you would ask the operator to put you in touch with somebody else. But very interesting that, and how we've moved on, eh? Now we're onto mobile phones, and we're all worried about our data and how we can get onto Wi-Fi. Whereas before it was a very manual operation. As we come up here with a lot of balanitis. Alright, so we're just continuing on our road of discovery here along the base of the escarpment, and while we're doing that and hopefully trying to find something exciting for you, let's send you back to Taylor, who I'm not quite sure what she's doing, but I'm sure it's something exciting.
Ralph, you most certainly know exactly what we're looking at if you saw it for yourself. And it does not bring a smile to my face. It is the prickly pear that grows in pockets along the Maya River, and particularly in this area. But why I stopped is because look how beautiful the flowers are. They're just starting to form now. And sadly, from the area that Ralph and I are from, and we've done a lot of guiding in, this place is littered with prickly pear and hedges of it. And you can see some of the others, older flowers just on the right, are bright yellow. Now, I don't know, and I must ask Ralph this, but as a kid, I always remember growing up that the two different types of prickly pear that you'd see, and they'd grow one amongst each other, is you get this one with a thicker leaf, and it doesn't have a very shiny leaf to it, and it has a yellow flower. Then there's another one that has a very narrow, sort of thin leaf. It doesn't seem to be as succulent, with an orange flower. And that you were not supposed to eat the fruit from the one that had the orange flower and the very shiny leaves. I don't know if it was toxic, but I just used to keep away from them, and we only used to eat the ones, even still now, it's still only eat the ones with the yellow fruit, with the yellow flowers on it, so we need to ask. Now, there we go, the plant that resembles the prickles on a porcupine. Very, very sharp tips. They make you bleed quite easy, and it's itchy when you get pricked by them. I can't tell you how many of these prickles I've had in my body. Especially when we'd go and try and remove the prickly pear. You go out and you slash it, and because it grows so quickly, and also it used to creep onto the roads. Now, Julie, you said beautiful jam can be made from the prickly pear fruit. Most certainly, it's delicious to eat. It is, however, tricky to try and peel the fruit because it's covered with tiny little hairs that make you itch. We would call them paper thorns, well, that's what I grew up calling paper thorns, but I don't know exactly what they're called here. And you can start to see a few of the fruits. Actually, I'm going to hop out again very quickly. It's just right here. I'm going to show you a few growing in the back. They're not ripe, sadly. Let's not get caught in the prickles. Oh, where is it, Star? Can you see them in there? Some ripe ones right at the back. I'm not going to touch it though. There's lots of little ones developing, but not ripe ones, but they're getting there. So we'll have to come back here and have a little look around and then see if I can show you the technique of how to take the skin off of a prickly pear without getting the paper thorns in your hand. It's a technique involving a tin. But I won't ruin the surprise. We shall save that for some point. If Ralph doesn't beat me to it. There we go. Maybe that's something Brent doesn't know. Brent knows lots and lots of different things, but I don't know if he knows how to peel a prickly pear with a tin. We'll maybe have to teach him that trick as well when he gets back. So it's quite cool. Not a nice plant though. The worst thing I think I've ever happened to me in terms of thorns though was when I was doing my guide training, and I've told you a few times, there were only a couple of us that were South African and the rest were internationals. And this fella from the UK was driving. I can't remember who it was now. It might have been the UK or Germany. And he decided to put the clutch in as we were going down a little depression and also approaching a viewpoint, which made me very nervous because it was a steep drop-off. And didn't apply the brake at the same time. And momentum kind of took over and he panicked. Anyways, I was sitting on the tracker seat and into an acacia karoo we went. And hello little pigs. We shall look at them. There's also a zebra hiding in the bushes. Not we, because I was the only one that was injured. Anyways, I pulled thorns out of my legs for days, and the acacia karoo, the sweet thorn acacia, has very, very long thorns. It was a nightmare. One only came out, I think, a few weeks later. It didn't want to come out. I even tried, different creams that would try and draw it out, but it didn't seem to work. It's a very happy family of warthogs, though, and zebra, and stripes. They're quite nice. All pop their heads out to say hello. So keep away from the thorns of Africa. There definitely are plenty of trees out here that need to try and protect themselves from the animals, and apparently from me too. But anyways, very nice to see the little warthogs, to watch them grow up. I'm going over to say hello to that dove. You can hear the turtle doves calling in the distance too. No, just brave enough to venture a couple more meters away from Mom. I actually don't know if it's bravery or it's stupidity, because we know that leopards like to lurk in the shadows and could come charging out at any second, because we have been seeing lots of evidence lately of leopards within this area. Just signs though, no actual leopards, unless somebody perhaps has leopard footprints under their shoes and is playing a trick on us. We were also convinced that someone was doing that at one point as well, when we couldn't find the leopards in the Sabi sand. We just kept seeing their footprints, but no actual cats to go with those footprints. But there they are, on their knees, grazing. Now, Sue, you're wondering, when do baby warthogs grow their tusks? You'll probably find that they have starting to develop. There was too many D's there for a second. And we just can't see them because they're still underneath the folds of skin. But in the next, it's something alright, about a year or so, between 8 months and a year, that you'll start to see them popping through. Again, it all goes to genetics. Some get theirs a little bit earlier, some a little bit later. But they do have something to try and fool the predators, though, and that's that long white tuft of hair that you can see on the side of its face. That's its pretend tusks. And it does a very, very good job, especially if you stare at a family of warthogs from a distance. It all looks like they've all got very sharp tusks protruding out of the front of their heads. There you go. Someone's being ushered around. Very cool, though. I like sitting with warthogs and spending time with them. And that's one of the nicest things about when you go on a safari and you stay at a safari lodge, is indeed just sitting out on the lawn, perhaps, and maybe a gin and tonic at hand, or a cup of tea, depending on the time of the day, or freshly squeezed orange juice if you're in South Africa, and watching these warthogs just graze, because they become quite familiar around the lodges, especially any lodges that manicure their gardens and like to keep their lawn nice and green. The warthogs take full advantage of that, and they're quite happy to tolerate the people as long as you keep your distance, and they will feed right around your toes, which is very nice. This is a very different vegetation though. You can see how sparse it is here. It's a lot drier in this section, but also the soil is very different. It doesn't seem to be very fertile soil either, because the grass always stays so short. There's not lots of flowers around, and of course the croton thickets, but they're everywhere. It doesn't make for the greatest grazing. Warthogs don't seem to mind though. Okay, but let's carry on. Let's see what else we can find. We're still searching this thicket though, but I'm sad to say that I think our chances of finding a leopard are slowly running out, because it is getting very, very hot. Manu and I are going to have to start taking our jerseys off too, and I reckon that if there are any, they're going to be sitting and dotted along the edge of the Mara River in the shade, which is a pity. But we'll keep trying again. We've just got to keep trying and trying and trying, and eventually, just one day, we'll be lucky, we'll be successful. Right, there's a plane taking off. We better duck for cover. Make sure we don't lose our aerial. So I'm going to send you back across to Rolf, and I'm sure he's still meandering along the edge of the escarpment.
Underneath the balanites. That one, yeah, that one. The one with the darker green, not the light green, dark green. Okay, so everybody, we've been looking underneath all these trees here, and I was trying to explain to Archie to have a look under that green tree with, well, the one with the green leaves and the brown bark, because ooh, hello, and there's a hyena, because as we've been looking, all of these trees are balanites trees, and all of them have green leaves and brown bark, and so a little bit difficult to explain to him exactly which one. So, needless to say, I do think that it was a termite mound that looked like a male lion, but now we've spotted a spotted hyena, which is always interesting, as they are always up to something sinister. And one of my favorite characters in the bush, because when you're around hyenas, there's always something happening, and they're generally not as sleepy as lions are. They tend to be a lot more active, and like that one, they're always up to something, whether it be chasing each other around or walking around game. And it's quite strange that the game animals, they're not as scared of hyenas as they would be of lions, which for me is quite strange, because they're as dangerous, if not more, than lions. And this one crossing the road, I wonder what it's up to. Is there another one? Thanks, Archie. There's a second one there. I'm going to move forward a little bit so that we can get a better view on them. You see what I mean in this long grass? Once they go into the grass, they literally disappear immediately. Now they're coming down again. And we're getting attacked by flies as well. So let me just move forward here, and then there's a bit of an open patch where these hyenas seem to be moving. There's some water there as well, so we might be able to get a better view on them. Just move here into this little area. Oopsie, sorry, don't mean to chase you off. But they are seemingly running around, not for us in particular. They seem to be shifting around for something in the area. I'm going to just turn the vehicle so that we can see them. Now they're running up the road that we've just come along. We can watch them disappear off into the distance, and then we can do the same in the opposite direction. But you see that lovely lope of the hyena? It's just nice to witness the way, I mean, they've just left us a few seconds ago, and they are literally about 800 meters or 800 yards up the road. They are motoring it, and it doesn't even seem like they are putting any effort into it whatsoever. And that is one of the strengths of hyena. They can run at that speed for hours, and it doesn't look like they're covering much ground, but they are motoring. And they won't even be breaking into a sweat. Well, not that they do, but if you know what I mean, hardly even exerting any energy, and they can move massive distances. So they'll often do that when they are hunting as well. They run up behind animals and they literally just keep going and keep going. They can keep that up for 5 hours quite easily. So animals literally in the end fall down exhausted, and then it's an easy kill for the hyenas. So they are long distance runners, very similar to that of wildebeest, very different to that of topi. Topi, I would say, are more like lions in that they are sprinters as opposed to long distance runners, whereas wildebeest, I would say, more built like hyenas, with that shorter back legs and stronger front quarters, and able to continue for much longer distances, and so way more adapted in that sense. So you see, once again, just taking a road that you haven't driven on. We've had a lovely encounter of a pride of lions. We had another roadblock with a herd of elephants. Now we've spotted a couple of hyena on a serious mission. So already it's been very successful, just taking a road that we haven't taken before. And it took us past that whole forested area. I definitely will be returning there to see if we can find some black rhino and maybe some leopard. Maybe even this afternoon I might go and have a look there, because I definitely will think about going back to see if those lions are there. I don't think they're going to be going anywhere. So if I don't see them by the time we're at the end of this game drive, we'll probably go and have a look this afternoon, because once you spot a pride of lions in an area like that, especially with such fat bellies, chances are they're not going to move far. So pretty sure that they will be there. And they maybe be a little bit more hungry than they were this morning, but I don't think too much more. Now, a question just come through, who is harder, the hyena or the jackal? Well, there aren't many animals. Alright, I'm sorry, but we're having breakup in the questions there, so I'm going to answer that question as I think I heard it. Who is harder, the jackal or the hyena? Well, definitely, it would definitely be the hyena. It's one of those animals that there is almost not an animal harder than a hyena, and they will take on any animal, especially if they've got a few numbers. So the hyena is a serious individual that is not to be messed with. Jackals, they're very wily and normally always running around the edges. They're very clever animals, but obviously the size of them doesn't lend them tend to them being able to chase any animals off kills and so on. So in terms of hardness, jackal's not very hard, but it is very wily, and you always see them following lions, sometimes following hyenas, following leopards, following cheetah, and I have actually seen jackals chase a cheetah off a kill. And I've also seen jackal making a springbok kill. They literally chase this springbok through territories, because jackals are very territorial, and each territory that the springbok crossed into, the next pair of jackals were chasing it, and eventually this springbok was quite exhausted, and then all the territorial animals that this springbok had run through all teamed up to bring the animal down and then literally rip it into pieces. And it was all over. It was almost like a wild dog kill, the way that they fed on it, because it was pandemonium, it was chaos, but within 10-15 minutes it was hard to tell that the springbok ever existed, because there was only blood left on the soil, and maybe just the tracks, but the rest was gone, just like that. So it was very intense, and there was probably about 30 jackals on it in the end, but very efficient as well. So jackals also not only just scavengers, they are quite proficient hunters when they want to be as well. But once again, why would you want to waste energy doing all that work, all that effort, when you could just wait for somebody else to do it and then either pick up the scraps or steal it? Alright, so we're going to see what else might pop its head out of the grass here along the base of the escarpment. And while we're doing that, let's head over to Taylor and see what she is up to.
Bouncing around at the moment, also looking for lions, because we're in the area that the marsh breakaway like to hang around. We're also going past the airport. Hello, airport. Enjoy your safari, or bye-bye guests. I don't know if they're coming or going. Right, so not much else is happening just yet. We're just on a bit of a bumble, Christmas Eve bumble. And I'm hoping that this afternoon is going to be very exciting. I'm actually just looking forward to wearing my Christmas hat out on game drive, that's all. And seeing those lions hopefully move away from that carcass and all the animals coming in to get the scraps. That could be quite nice too. But we might actually have to wait till tomorrow morning for that. That's a possibility. So all we're going to do now is I think we're going to go across this bridge. I have to show you how this bridge is falling apart actually. Although they were working on it. They were working on it the other day, and I'm going to show you one of the my not so favorite things to do in the bush too. So when you start as a guide, you've got to learn all the different techniques, conservation efforts on how to repair roads, and you learn how to do all of them. One of the most tiring things I've ever had to do is make gabions. Now gabions is essentially this mesh structure. Here we go. Actually, I'll show you it right down here. Can you see it, Manu? Let me go a little bit off the road, make it a bit clearer. There we go. So a gabion is essentially mesh or wire of sorts, depending on the size of rocks you're using, that would determine the width and, well, the holes, sorry, within the wire. And then you pack it filled with rocks, and you can basically make little walls to stop things from collapsing, like this bridge is about to. But we have to keep moving, just because there's a car that wants to cross too. So, Manu, you know that moment when you don't need the car to roll forward in neutral when you think it's in gear? Just make sure. Anyways, this water was pumping and it's kind of washing away the bridge a bit, which is not so great, unfortunately. And when things like that happen, you have to repair them, and that's one of the ways that you can indeed repair a little bridge. And it's a lot of work trying to go and collect all those rocks, because you need quite a few rocks. They had a helping hand though. I think what they're doing is they're going into some of the quarries and into the areas where there was a build-up of rocks and just sort of scooping them out, and then using the suitable ones, bringing them in with a machine, which would definitely help. That would be the easier way. Sadly, I had to do everything by hand, but you learn, and it's important to learn those things. Now, Wisteria, what is it? Hysteria? Wisteria? Mysteria? I don't know, sorry, I couldn't quite get the name. Wisteria, there we go. That makes it a little bit more. You make me think of the wisteria tree when I hear that. You're wondering if myself or any of the other guides have come across snakes. Most certainly, we've got a couple of resident snakes. Apparently there's a resident puff adder that lives near the incinerator, aka the pizza oven. And then there is also a mamba, black mamba, and a green mamba around camp every now and then. I've seen garter snakes, I've seen an olive house snake, I've seen also another mamba of sorts. I've seen quite a few snakes actually since I've been here. I've seen a rock python striking at some crown cranes. Manu saw a python the other day. So yeah, the snakes are around. It's just difficult to try and find them, however, because the grass is very, very long. And snakes don't want to be seen by people. They're scared of us. So when they do see us, most of the time they move away. to not get stood on. But if it's something like a puff adder, so it's when accidents happen, is that when you're just walking and they freeze to try and conceal themselves and use their camouflage to hide away, but that doesn't work because you don't see them, and then you step on them and then they're angry. Can you blame them? So yeah, so you don't see too many snakes. You just got to look very carefully. Normally on warm evenings and when it's a bit of a drizzle, a bit of rain, you'll start to see a lot of snakes coming out. It's good snake weather. You can see all their food is going to be on the move, so will they, looking for things to eat. I think that would be a cool thing to capture live, is maybe a puff adder managing to catch a rat or a gerbil or something, but seeing it from start to finish, and then watching them kill it and then swallow it. So that would be quite cool. Yeah, I think Ralph has gone past the point of no return. If you look down there, you can see the escarpment. You see how it comes out? If you drive past that, and I think that's where Ralph's going, so Ralph hasn't got any comms at the moment, you lose comms completely. So you've got to keep an eye out for that sneaky thing. It does pop up every now and then. You realize and you look behind you and you're like, I wonder why I haven't heard Final Control in a while. That happens often. Hi Cheryl! Cheryl, you're wondering if we're in the outback of Kenya and how far away we'd be from any major cities. Nairobi's probably the closest thing around here that you could call a city. It takes us about 7 hours by vehicle. However, it only is a 40-minute flight, so it's not actually that far. It's just that the roads are quite bad coming in. So there's lots of these small villages like around us. I don't know, what would you call them, Manu? They're not. It's not a town. Stop. Fueling stations. I don't know. They're so small. Like Marianta, Longorian, Kauai. They've got a petrol station. They have a bar. They have a butchery, and lots of like small little supermarkets. Although here the trend is to actually have a big market once a week where you come and get your food, your fresh vegetables. Everybody brings their stuff together, kind of like what they do in the cities as well, where you have a weekend market type vibe. So yeah, so they'll go and do that, but there's not much more than that, unfortunately. So it's very small, it's very basic. My favorite little village, town, stopover area has to be Talek. Oh, that's a cool place. My street, and you know, I went and I tried to do a Taylor's Talek Town tour with you one evening, but the gremlins were too strong. But it is so cool around there. I love the vibe. There's dogs, and then there's donkeys. There's an eland that lives in Talek that Brent and Jamie actually saw over TV. Was coming right up to the cars. So it's a very spunky little place. So if you're ever in the area and you do come to the Masai Mara, well, you'd have to be in the Masai Mara National Reserve because that's where one of the gates are. Do yourself a favor and go for some nyama choma in Talek, or perhaps if it's in the evenings, head to one of the local hangouts and you know, and go and see what they're up to. It's very, very festive all the time. Everyone's very friendly. It's a lot of fun. Actually, Manu and I were saying we need to go at some point across the river. We'll do that in the new year though, and spend a bit of time there with Chitwa again. I know Ralph wants to get up that side too. Now, Roshni, you're wondering what are the signs of a thriving ecology in the wild? Well, I suppose there's many different elements that you could go into. You know what's always a good indication, and how I often go, okay, I'm just doing alright, is not necessarily by the color of, say, water, but what you're finding in the water. Something like a frog is a really, really, really good indicator to the environment. You won't see frogs in areas where there's polluted water, or you know, just a lot of rubbish around, or you know, a thriving ecosystem. You wouldn't find frogs. That's because they do a lot of they absorb things through their skin, so they're very susceptible, especially living in water. So they're really good to have. Otherwise, nice green grass, not a lot of erosion. There's so many different things. Trees. So you've got to have a balance of everything. and it would depend on what type of ecosystem you're in. Are you what vegetation types are occurring? So it can just going. We're actually just driving through, passing the Olololo gate now, so we have all the staff accommodation. No, I don't think you're going to have comms with Ralph until he comes back to camp. The gate is behind us now, so I'm talking to Ryan, who's directing. He's, like I said, he's gone past the point of no return, so he's stuck with me now for the last little bit. So we're going to head past. Here comes a ranger now. I wonder if it's Noah. Noah's my great friend. We always stop and we have the longest chats ever. This is not Noah. Hi, not Noah. I don't know who that was, but he was nice. He waved at us. So yeah, Roshni, sure, my goodness, I could really go into it. We'll try and find a little pond of sorts at some point, and then have a look and then chat about it a bit more. I just don't think right now I'm going to find the right pool, but that could be quite a cool conversation topic. We can stop at different things. We can stop at a termite mound, we can stop at a tree, and we can discuss at some point. Maybe we do that this afternoon. Maybe that can be our theme to our drive, and discuss, say, the life at a termite mound and how would I know that it's active and that everything is healthy around it, and we'll actually look at some signs. It could be quite fun to do. I'm sure Ralph would enjoy something like that as well, so perhaps we can do a combined thing. We can say, okay, Ralph can go and do the forest side of it with the marshes, and I can go down to the river and have a look at what makes for a good ecosystem down at the river. It'd be quite cool, or we could do vice versa, and we can change. It's nice to every now and then, especially when we do have these quieter drives, to have a bit of a theme to go with the rest of the drive, and that is a very good one. It's a pity we're not going to have any kids joining us, because I think a lot of the older schools that do join us and are, you know, starting up with biology and learning about ecosystems and indicators within an ecosystem, they probably enjoy that. So we might also have to reiterate at some point and do that for the school kids. That was my favorite thing to do on a bushwalk, because then you could really get down and dirty and start lifting things up and having a closer look, getting the camera right into the action. So that's something maybe we can, I'll do again when I'm back in South Africa and back at Djuma. It'll be very nice. This is a bit of a boring road sometimes. When we get past around the bend, there should be a whole lot of elephants. There normally are a whole lot of elephants, but watch, there won't be one elephant today. And then as we start to go up the Escarpment road, all the animals start to pop out again. Lots of animals on the Escarpment. They love it there. Paula, now you're wondering what is the coolest thing I've seen since joining Safari Live. I don't know. I've had so many cool sightings. Maybe some of you can help me reminisce about the most amazing moments I've had here. One of my favorites is, of course, the serval hyena interaction that I had over a wildebeest carcass. That was pretty spectacular. Something that I didn't see that Evia saw, and it actually popped up as a memory, funny enough, like 2 days ago, was that little chameleon that was on Mfumo's mane, one of the Birmingham boys. And that was incredible to see that. I don't think we'll ever see something like that again. The pythons striking at the crown cranes, that was an exceptional sighting too. Yesterday I watched a wasp stuff its burrow with caterpillars next to my tent. That was pretty spectacular as well. I sat there for hours watching this wasp. It did an amazing job. Its offspring, I hope, are going to be appreciative of how skilled that wasp actually was, because every couple of minutes it would fly and would bring a green one. I don't know if it found an abundance of them, maybe on a tree, maybe they were gathering and was taking advantage of that gathering of caterpillars, but that was quite cool too. The juvenile martial eagle trying to pull out the water monitor was quite nice. Oh, and then of course, the day that I was in the hot air balloon and I saw the water monitors digging in the crocodile's nest from the sky, that was epic. Please go again with who? Lauren, you've said... Sorry. Right, sorry. I'm getting too many things in my ear now. Let me think what else. Manu, our hamster sighting, gerbils. Gerbils was a goodie. What did we do the other day where we were laughing as well? There was something else. Oh, when I fell on my face. That was a good one. That was so much fun when I fell face first into the mud. When Tristan fell out the car, that's probably the highlight for me. Brent also scared me once. That was quite funny. I was doing an Insta story. Sorry, there's no animals here at the moment, so we're just enjoying the little drive. There was, I was doing an Insta story with Manu, and we're actually showing, we're all sitting in the corner. We started pouring with rain. We were just chatting, waiting for the rain to stop. And then I was doing the story, and then I did one of Manu and I, and as I was doing one of Manu and I, Brent snuck around the car. Manu knew the whole time. I thought he was my friend. And then, I don't know if I can show you it, because I can't remember what I say in the video, if I maybe shouted a bad word. But I still have it. If it's PG, I can show you this afternoon. But basically, Brent goes, that crazy thing that he always does. And the tent was down, so I couldn't see him coming. And I got such a fright. I think I jumped and screamed, and I may have said a bad word. I'm not sure. But we'll watch the video at breakfast, and then I'll let you know. So yeah, so I've had some really magical moments here in the Mara and in the Sabi sand. Every sighting I had with Kruger was always extra special. Spending time with Nkahumas, watching Tumba grow up. You know, we're very, very lucky. Well, I'm very, very lucky to be doing what I'm doing. It's quite difficult to call this actually a job. Oh, you know what one I did forget though? Last amazing one was that one time that I watched that giraffe performing osteophagy on a wildebeest carcass which the Angama pride had killed a few days prior. And the way that it had picked it up by one of the vertebrae in the neck made it look like it was trying to eat a dead giraffe. But it wasn't. It was just the vertebrae in the neck and then down on the spine. And because all the flesh was gone and the legs weren't really a part of it, it was quite deceiving. That was very cool though. Here we go. Here's the life I was telling you about that like to live on the edge of the escarpment. Hi pigs. That's a big warthog boar. And that's a little zebra foal. See, they're not little, those pigs. Look how big it is in comparison to that zebra. The zebra is probably coming on to about a year old now. Yes, I'm talking about you. Would you take 2 steps back? Or pigs, would you come out so we can see all of you? Thank you. And then there's a female walking with him, and you can see she's much smaller. That's a big, big, big male. All feeding on the nice green grass here. It's very lush. We had a nice amount of soaking rain last night, so that was quite good. We could maybe go swimming in the rock pools again, Manu. Soon. I think we need one more downpour though. I don't trust that little drizzle we had though, just to fill up the water. Oh, and there's even a couple of vulture by the looks of it. Are the vultures or buzzards that are flying around, just starting to catch the thermals? Who have we got? No, that looks buzzard-like. Is it? Yes. Something along those lines. It's a raptor flying in the sky. But anyways, it's been a really good start to the morning. I think we've got a definite plan for this afternoon, which is good. So I hope you're excited and ready and raring to go for the sunset safari. Djuma will be joining us as well. So you'll have a combined drive, which is always a lot of fun, and hopefully the leopards will make an appearance for Christmas Eve. Remember to share those pictures if you did add a Christmas hat to any of the animals. But from us, goodbye. We'll see you a little bit later. Have the greatest day until this afternoon.